How we doing? Good. Been a lot that's transpired here, really since the end of the season. We're still in the process of kind of looking at everything, the cut-ups, offense, defense, special teams. Defense is really what we've been involved in. I've been involved in with Shep and those guys because we have the staff intact. Fortunate to be able to keep Jim O'Neill. He had an opportunity to go with the Jets, so that worked out good for us. So really we got the staff still intact, and it's about cleaning up some of those little things. And then offensively, it's Drew kind of getting up to speed with our terminology. He's been getting together with golf and just trying to make sure that we get everything that kind of makes sense for him, but for us as well, and he in golf. And then we'll start hitting the cut-ups. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Drew was fortunate to find him. I've always liked Drew from afar, facing those guys, but then just watching common opponents, through the years, what he was able to do offensively, I always liked it. There was creativity to it. Certainly they've used a lot of heavy sets lately, but that's where the roster has gone. That's not something that I foresee us being. We're going to be versatile, but he gives us that ability to make the most of what we have. And I just think he understands the protections. He understands the run game. He understands the pass game, certainly, quarterback play. So I think he's got it all. He's coached receivers, coached tight ends, coached quarterbacks, and I think that's important. It was important for this one. We had, a lot of different guys to interview. It was great. The process was great. A lot of good men, good coaches, great coaches, really. But he was the right fit. It was. I felt that within 20 minutes. So it was really good. So fired up to have him. And then one of the guys I was really high on through that whole process was Mike Kafka too. And we were fortunate to get him really pass game coordinator. So that worked out really well. But a guy who's been our interim head coach, has coached the quarterbacks, has coached some good quarterbacks, running offense. So he's got a good perspective on things. He's got some pretty good ideas. So anyway, that was good. Steve Oliver, we promoted from assistant O-line coach to tight end coach. He's earned that. He's really I've interviewed him twice. Over the last 2 times we've had that position open, and it was time. He's earned it. So fired up for him. Guys are excited. And that's where we're at, really. That's where we're at. Now it's just about how do we improve from here. Brad and I have had a number of conversations. Free agency's coming on. But, for me it needed to start with what can we do a little bit better as coaches. We're not that far off. We still had a top 5 offense. Our efficiency was a little off. So how do we get a little bit better with what we do as coaches? And now it's about the roster. Where do we upgrade ourselves? Where do we bring in some competition? So excited for another year, man. Yeah. I think that, I think that's a fair assessment, but I think it more as, this is my, it's the most time I've had to be able to sit down with the defense and just go play by play, cut up by cut up. Well, let me go back. I think Shep did a good job, and I think he learned a lot, and I think he grew a ton. And I love the staff that's around him. I really do, man. I think those guys from Casey Rogers to Shea Townsend to get Jim O'Neill back, Sean Dion Hamilton, I just think it's a really good unit, man. It's an experienced unit. I think we got a lot of flexibility on what we do. Man, we just got to tighten the screws on a few things. But I love the staff, and I love what we do. Man, are there things we've already been through the cut up? Like, man, if we could go back, maybe we would play a little bit more of this or a little less of this. And so I think there's a lot of clarity in some things, adjusting when we get a few injuries here and there. What can we do better? What do the players, what can they do better? How complex is this really? Is it out of their wheelhouse? It's just we're asking somebody to do something they cannot do. So I think it's to be able to go into year 2 and learn and grow with a guy who is receptive. He's always looking for answers. He's always looking for new ways to do things. I'm talking about Shep, and with an experienced staff around him. So that fired me up. And so that really has been where my focus has been over the last, call it 3 weeks. Yeah. Well, your first question to that was just about, so I've left him alone. We had a conversation right when the season ended, about just him taking his time to figure out what he really feels like he wants to do, can do. And so I've left him alone there. I don't want to say we haven't had a conversation, but I'm leaving that between us. But there'll be some, look, if it's not, then we got to find a guy, right? But if it is, we still got to find a guy, because as much as I love Deck, it's he's got some things that are going to need some management, and that's kind of where we're at, And so we're one way or another, we're going to need somebody that can play over there, and that can help us if we need them in a crunch or we need them as a starter. So that's important. We've talked about the interior of the offensive line too. That's important. So, we've been digging, we've been looking at stuff, but until we can kind of figure a little bit of those pieces out, and then exactly who is going to be available, who are we going to have the ability to potentially go after, how does that affect another position or the depth of the roster, then we're waiting it out here a little bit. David's another guy we talked at the very end of the year, and I told him I was not, I like to give these guys their space and just let them kind of unwind a little bit in their own way. They don't need me in their ear. But certainly he knows how I feel. Drew loves him, who wouldn't? This guy's he's a heck of a back, and so we'll see where everything's at, Certainly there's been healthy conversations, I'm sure Brad told you guys, probably mentioned that. So all good, man. David's a pro, so figure this out.
On the community engagement side, there is an initiative with the Office of Roger Goodell's communications team to cure a rare fatal disease that's been terminal for 70 years, and it's in 8 NFL markets, and one of them is an hour away from Detroit Stadium. And I'm curious to know if you wouldn't mind, it's called PCAN, Pantothenic Kinase Associated Neurodegeneration. An initiative started in the Super Bowl, and I'm curious to know if you wouldn't mind me connecting with Jesse Giambra or someone on your staff to give them more information.
Give me a minute. All right. That's yeah. That's tough to say. We've been treating him. He's done a few things. We're in a I would say we're in the position now to where we're slowly working him back. What is this going to look like? How is it going to feel? Call it a month from now, maybe a month and a half. And then I think we'll have a lot better idea, because is this something where he's going to be able to handle what it's going to feel like, or can we get it stable enough? Can we get enough strength? It's all of those things. Well, I think there's a level of maturity with him. He did grow, he made some plays for us when we called his number. And he's tough, man. He which is one of the things we loved about him. We asked him to do some of the dirty work. He did that. He played teams for us. I just thought, it's hard for rookies to really help you and contribute in their first year. And I think receiver, it's real hard sometimes. just because we put so much on those guys from a mental standpoint to have to do it. And I thought, man, you look at where he was from game one to the very last game, he improved. And there would be nothing to tell me that he's not going to take another step this year. Well, I think we're going into camp a little bit with some confidence in this guy. And that's important as a rookie. It's important. No, it wasn't that. It was just the way that he talked and the way that he saw the game. Man, his confidence, his conviction, his knowledge, his detail and everything, and why he was doing what he was doing and what he was thinking and how he was teaching it. Throw curveballs at him, man. He was all over it. It was good, man. It was. I just loved the way that I loved his presence, and I loved the way that he taught, and I loved the detail behind it. And then I've seen the tape. I know what the tape is. And I just think he's a creative guy and can make things happen with, tell me what I got and I'll figure this out. I love that. I think it's very important. I do. I think all of those guys, you're always looking for something that is maybe a little bit unique or rare, or that somebody has that the other guy doesn't, because now you can kind of help each other out and you can lift each other up. And I do feel like we have that. It was important to keep this staff intact. What we did last year, what I did last year, look, it didn't work. It wasn't the perfect setup. I thought we would be able to work through those a little bit better than we did. Didn't work out, all good. We'll move this way. But I love the staff that is here intact. I know they'll be able to work with Drew. Drew will be able to give those guys the directive, and they'll respond. That's what they do, man. Our guys are doers. They go to work. So I'm fired up about it. Yeah, so Mike Clark, I'm glad you brought that up. Director of Strength Performance is retiring. Somebody I've known a long time, been in this profession for 50 years. And, he's one of these, you go inside those circles, he's a legend. And I've lived it firsthand. The guy's been unbelievable. I've loved the program, everything that he's brought to the table. So we're going to miss him, we're going to miss him. But he felt like it was time, and Josh Schuler will be head strength coach, and he'll be running that area, taking care of business over there. He's earned that as well. He's learned from Mike, so we're excited moving forward. Yeah, well, here's what I say about Declan. Even from the time when I was with him in New Orleans, somebody made a comment about how young he seems, right? And he is young, but even back then, think about this. This was, 18, 19. I don't know what that was now. But you're talking about another 7 years. He was 7 years younger. He was you would never know it. The way that he, the questions that he asked, the way that he taught, the information he gave to the players or ideas that he had had a lot of conviction. Understands football, asks the right questions. He's always trying to solve problems. And when he coaches, you see him. He comes alive. Before that, he's a little low key. But man, the minute the football is laid out, you see his passion. So I'm not surprised one bit. I'm not surprised that Ben hired him. He did a great job, and now he's where he's at. So I think this guy's going to just do this. Override tape for a player? You're talking about for this, like the combine, these override tape? Never, I don't think. I don't know what would override that. I think the tape is always going to speak louder than anything else. And if the tape doesn't speak, then it doesn't matter anything else, really. That's probably the best way to say it. On that side of the ball, would you like to see more out of the players or some changes you guys might make this offseason? Well, I think there's a number of things. We'll tell the players when we come in, some things that we can clean up. And I think more importantly, man, now that it's for the most part, it's the same system. But, man, we evolved last year in doing a lot more things, trying to create a lot more looks to the opponent, create more headaches. Was it perfect? Of course it wasn't perfect. But, God, there's so much room to grow. So I think it's more about the players now, who is the most instinctual, who has the highest intellect when it comes to defensive football with where we're at, Detroit Lions. Well, figure out who that is and get to their level. Like, how do we get to the next level? All of our guys. And I think that's really what it's about is, man, we're out of this first, second level, and we get to 401. If we can do that and add a couple of things, tweak a few things, I love where we could go with this. So I think that's the big thing. Yeah, I do. I think that's going to be important for us. However we go about that, and it's easier said than done. You only have so many resources to be able to do it, but I do think it's important. If you can't say, and I'm not saying we would or we wouldn't, but if you can't say for sure, I know without any question, without any doubt, the player that we're going to acquire or that we sign is a starter, then he better be able to shake it up. You know what I mean? He better be able to, well, we know this. He's going to go in there and create a lot of chaos in a good way, healthy chaos, healthy competition, and make sure that those guys are constantly, somebody's always dangling the carrot. And because I just think that there again, it lifts the floor, man. And if it lifts the floor, it makes your whole team better. Yeah, I think there's always that balancing act between, and when I think of splash, you're saying name recognition, right? So I don't think of it like that, but I think if it aligns to where the splash, the money, and the player all meet, because it's worthy of that on the tape, then absolutely. But then if you do that, you're out everything else. So the competition, the depth, the quality depth, or that would suffer. So is it worth it? And that's the juggling act that Brad and I constantly go through, and we think through, and what is right, and what should we do? What can we do? Do we have the resources? So all of those conversations we've had, we continue to have, and they're all good, because they make you go through all this whole process of figuring out what's the best way to get our team a little bit better, man, and get over the hump.
Thank you, guys.
Say it again.
The chance David Blau's getting in Washington.
Getting in Washington?
Call plays OC for Blau. What do you think of him getting that up?
Oh, God, yeah. I thought you were like, you didn't. No, it's not you. It's not you. I love Blau. I mean, he was one of the guys that I wanted to bring in, and Coach Quinn and those guys went ahead and named him OC, which is smart by them. I think Blau is a young, rising coach in this league. I've been around him firsthand, and he's another one, man. He's sharp. He understands football and quarterback play. He knows the run game. And he's a detailed guy, and he's competitive, man. He's very competitive. So I think he's going to do a great job.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thanks.